Thanks to all my supporters on Ko-Fi or Coffee. If you want to support me there as well, please have a look. You can choose the amount you want to give me either one time or monthly. And monthly supporters will be listed in special videos like this here, no matter the amount. Did you ever want to try to start on Hunt Showdown, or you recently started and you have no idea where to go from here? Then this is your video. Today I will tell you 5 things that I personally would love to know before I started the game, but now as a Prestige 97 I actually know them, and yes, I will make the Prestige 100 full quite soon on Twitch, so if you want to see that, please follow me on Twitch as well, link is in the description. Tip number 1, you will hear that a lot. Losing your hunter is not the end of the game. If you watch a lot of beginner tips and tricks videos or general tips and tricks videos, you will hear this tip a lot. And it's quite simple to forget about this, but Hunt Showdown, while the stakes are sometimes really high, is a very forgiving game in terms of losses. Even if your loadout is worth like $1,500 or $2,000 hunt, it's not tied to a specific market or to other players' economies or something similar like this. So it's kind of forgiving as long as your hunt dollar account is quite acceptable. Everything above $2,000 hunt is perfectly fine. Everything below 1,000, on the other hand, you might wanna take in a farming game or two. And that's where we come to tip number 2. Tip number 2. You don't need to hunt the boss or go for PvP if you don't want to, or if you can't for some reason. So for example, you went down on your economy to like $500 and you are like, oh damn, I need to make money. Then it's perfectly fine to go for a hunting game or a farming game, depending on what you call it. You try to sneak around, you try to avoid PvP, you try to avoid boss fights. If you find the boss, you bail the shit out of this compound. You just try to find money or experience or whatever you want to farm in that game. A separate video, if you're interested in that, for farming games could be soon on this channel. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in that. Not hunting the boss and not doing PvP, just collecting some money, maybe cash registers, even sealed ones during the event now, and then leaving again is perfectly fine. You don't need to compete every single game with the other players. For tip number 3, we will now look into the game. For tip number 3, there are many traits in Hunt Showdown, and you can obviously sort them like I did. I have my favorites always on top, and a few that I don't use that are hidden. And most of the time your traits are determined by what you play and how your playstyle goes. If you are more silent, you wanna maybe pick different traits than if you have a very trait heavy weapon. Like for example a Terminus. You have the Iron Eye where you can shoot faster from the ADS side. You can also use levering on it, where you can shoot faster from the hip state. And you also should use Bullet Grab on this one, where you can preserve ammunition basically. Depending on your weapon and depending on your loadout, there are many traits that are very specific. However, there are 3 traits that you should always equip under certain circumstances. So 2 of them are for solos and 1 of them is for team players. First the solo ones, because I'm personally a solo as well. The most important one for solo is Necromancer. You have it from the beginning, you don't need to unlock it. As long as you run Necromancer as a solo, you can get up once per game. Then Necromancer is burned. At the moment, with the Empress of the Web event, there is also a tarot card that's called the Empress that gives you another free Necromancer, but you can also find it on the game, like on towers, as a sealed trade at the moment, or during other events as well, most likely. Or you can also get it from meatheads or bears dropping. Necromancer is your bread and butter as a solo. But there's another trait, and that's completely underestimated by many people, and that's Magpie. Magpie, same as Necromancer, is a freaking game changer for solo players. So what does Magpie? When you pick up a bounty token, you get an antidote, stamina and regeneration shot. That's lasting 3 minutes each. But that's not the big deal. The big deal for solos is it doubles the amount of dark side boost received. And that's the interesting part, even if you don't go for the bounty. Because what this trait doesn't tell you, but it still does, it doubles also the capacity. As long as you have this trait equipped, you can get up to 10 seconds of dark side boost instead of 5, and every source that you get dark side boost from is doubled. So if you pick up the moon, that gives you usually 2 seconds, bam, you have 4. If you pick up the dark side boost in the nest, instead of 1 you have 2. And in past events, if you have Corpse here, that allowed you to pick up dark side after looting a player, you also get 1 second, but now it's 2 seconds, thanks to Magpie. So every single source that gives you dark side is doubled as well. This is a freaking game changer, because as a solo, the more dark side you have, the easier the game gets. Trust me, this is godlike. If you get used to it, you never unequip this perk. I don't run it in teams, however what I do run in teams, and you should do as well, is Resilience. Resilience revives you up to full health. Well, whatever your full health is. If you lost 25 HP and you're only on 125 HP, you will be revived with 125 from your teammate. So Resilience is the ultimate team perk. Of course, Necromancer is also good in team plays, and Magpie is also good in team plays, but Resilience is the absolute game changer, because you don't just get up on like 10 HP or 5 HP, whatever that is, but you're actually fully healed the moment you get up. If you have, for example, Relentless, and you go down and you don't lose a chunk, you're full to 150 HP. Most weapons can't even one-shot you then. So Resilience for team players, a really good game change. Now we come to tip number 4, and that is make sure your loadout covers most of the NPC tricks. So you need something quiet for grunts, hives and dogs. You need some special stuff for immolators or meatheads. You need something to clear dog and chicken kennels. You need something for PvP. You need some solutions for bosses, and you need some healing or strategic supplies. And that sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is, because most of the stuff you can cover by 1 or 2 slots. As you can see, I have a base kit loadout that's not completely unlocked right now, because I don't have the level that I need for that. But one example would be the knuckle knife, first aid kit, bear traps, concertina traps, regeneration shot, stamina shot, wax dynamite, dark dynamite. But it doesn't need to be that complicated. I have a cheap farming loadout. Coming back to tip 2 earlier, where I told you about going farming. This loadout costs you $150 hunt, and you have covered everything. You have quiet stuff for grunts, hives, dogs, the heavy knife and the baseball bat. You have special stuff for immolators, that's the baseball bat. For meatheads, this loadout has nothing in itself, but you can find a toolbox in the map real quick in most situations, and can get a dynamite stick out of it, for example, or some other explosive that can blow up a meathead or a bear. Dog and chicken kennels can be taken out with the decoys. You just throw a decoy at the lantern on top of the dog or chicken kennel, and it just explodes and goes down and everything's burned and you don't make a noise. PvP, you have the Vandal here. We'll come to the Vandal in a second again. Boss solutions. Boss solutions don't need to be included in your loadout, because there are many melee weapons, namely shovels, forks or pitchforks, hammers, axes. In the map, hammers are the best, by the way, axes the second probably. Pitchforks and shovels, in my opinion, are not so good, but many other people swear on the shovel being the best. Pick one of these, take a stamina shot if you have one, or maybe benefit from some other source of stamina, and just smash the head of the boss down to smithereens and you're good. And healing and strategic supplies. Usually you always should have a first aid kit, but then there are 2 other options to heal yourself quite effectively. One is vitality shots, weak and the strong one obviously, and the recovery shots, the weak and the strong one. I'll show you these one, or regeneration, sorry, recovery is the right one. Regeneration shots. The purple syringes. Purple syringes heal you over time but slowly, and if you take damage it pauses for a second. Vitality shots, the weak heals you for 75 instantly and the strong for 150 instantly. So you have here, it here says 75 and the strong one for 150, and this one recovers your health slowly over time. Same for the weak one. The weak one is at 4 minutes, the big one is at 7 minutes. What do I mean with strategic supplies on top of that? Well, if you don't go for a mega farming game, you usually should have your consumable slots fully equipped. That can be, depending on your loadout, for example, a dynamite stick, or in my case a wax dynamite stick, and a sticky bomb. I mostly run these, but you can also run different loadouts, for example. You can also use a poison bomb, for example, and top it up with a dynamite stick. Or you can use a fire bomb or a hellfire bomb, which is at the moment not unlocked. All of these have specific uses, so you can, for example, bring a poison bomb to lock off areas so neither grunts nor players can enter through that, because the poison would at least hurt them or even kill them. Grunts are most likely being dead after running through a cloud like this. Players, depending on if they have a 4-shot boon, for example, from the map, or an anti-poison shot, can maybe walk through it. But you can also take a fire bomb or a liquid fire bomb to seal off these areas. Or you can use a concertina bomb to seal areas off. You can also use a choke beetle to make a choke cloud there, or if you want to stick to tools, you can also use a choke bomb to seal that area off. Of course, choke bombs are not as effective as poison bombs or fire bombs in sealing areas off, but it can work because people are coughing when they step into a choke cloud, reducing their aim, and some people swear they can't see properly anymore, but I think that's just a personal thing. I never had the impression that my vision got actually impacted by it, except from the blurry effect that the cloud itself made. But of course, depending on what you want to play, this can look a lot different. For example, you can run throwing knives like I do most of the time to deal with most of the stuff, and have your first aid kit, and then everything else is just a bonus on top. As long as you make sure everything is covered in some way, and you can move around quietly, as Hunt is still a game of sound mostly, and your reactions and actions actually trigger other reactions, so if you go in guns blazing from the very first moment, you are very likely to attract another team that spawned next to you to simply shoot you in the back because you invited them, literally. Gunshots are very loud, you can hear them from quite afar, and it's never good to tell people where you are. And that brings us to my last tip already, and for that we are checking our loadout slots a little bit more in detail. Tip number 5, pick your weapon. This is very subjective, so I can't give you a proper response. But try through the weapons, and especially as a beginner, stick to rifles and pistols mostly. Exceptions are the bow and the crossbow. Let me show you. There are a lot of special weapons in this game, like the bomb lance, or the bomb launcher, or the chukunu, or the crossbow, the bow, melee weapons, all sorts of melee weapons, a hammer, a katana, an axe, a machete, and some other stuff as well. While these special weapons, especially katana, might be tempting as a beginner because, yeah, it's a katana, it looks cool, obviously. Don't pick it. Stick to rifles, stick to pistols, and maybe a bow and a crossbow. Why? The rifles, the pistols, and even the bow and the crossbow are somewhat reasonable to understand if you played other shooter games. You can identify how a rifle works from other shooter games, obviously, or from other games where you can shoot things most of the time. But the bomb launcher and the bomb lance and the chukunu and also most melee weapons are very unique in their use. And you might want to get familiar with the game first before you actually start to dive into these special weapons. I don't discourage you from picking these. If you actually want to play a bow katana samurai, go ahead. I won't stop you, but I would recommend to stay away from these in the beginning. The katanas, at least the bow, I recommend. To make sure that you actually get used to it. Hand crossbow I also would discourage in the beginning. The normal crossbow is fine for several reasons, but we'll go into that in a second. And that is, all weapons are on a somewhat equal level of lethality. Some are minor, a bit better, some are a little bit less good, and then there's personal preference. So try through the weapons and figure out what you like. For me personally in the beginning, and that's also what I would recommend you if you have no idea what you want to pick, is the Vandal. The Vandal is a series of 3 weapons. The Vandal Striker, and the Bullseye. And it covers almost all situations thanks to these 3 variants. The Bullseye is right now not unlocked because I'm Prestige 97 and I didn't unlock it yet, but I'm currently working towards it. Why the Vandal? The Vandal is a very specific weapon, it has a very specific place. The Vandal is very versatile. You have a standard version that's super cheap, you have a striker version that's still super cheap but allows you to do a lot of melee shenanigans because the light and the heavy attack are improved by a blade, and you have the Bullseye that covers, thanks to its scope, medium to long range shots as well. Well, you can also do medium and long range shots on the other two variants, but this one is specifically made for it. On top of that, it's a 2-slot weapon, meaning that you can combine it with almost everything else without an additional trait. You can take, so in case you don't know, you have 2 slots for your weapons, but 4 spots for these boxes. I don't know how to call this. These boxes here. It says 2 times large slot with 3 traits. But if I now equip a Vandal, this suddenly is a medium slot with only 2 weapon slots anymore, because I already used 2 on the Vandal above. So you have a total of 4 of these points. So now you can equip another bow, for example, or you can equip a pistol with 1 or 2 slots, or you can equip something else like a melee weapon if you necessarily have to, or you can equip 2 pistols and go dualies. Or what you also can do is you can get the trait Quartermaster. Quartermaster allows you to have 5 weapon slots in total. So again, you only can pick 2 weapons, but you get a fifth point on the slot. So if you buy this, your slot becomes a large slot again, because you have 5 points now instead of 4. And now you can equip it with a bomb lance, you can use a normal sized shotgun, like you can equip the super strong auto 5, you can put in a drilling, you can put in another normal rifle, you can put in a very good shotgun like the Terminus or the Spectre or whatever you want. And this makes the Vandal very unique, because there's only one other rifle that is this versatile from the beginning, and that is the Mosin Obras. And the Mosin Obras is a lot more expensive. So if you are a beginner and you want to make sure your money lasts for quite some while, maybe try to play the Vandal. On top of all of that, the Vandal has a very versatile ammunition loadout. You can pick 5 different special ammos. You have FMJ for better wall pen shots, so you can shoot through a little bit thicker walls as well. You have high velocity for long distance shots, where you can, for example with the bullseye, suddenly shoot a few meters further without considering bullet drop, because that's the thing in the game. You have incendiary ammo to ignite people, you have poison ammo to, well, poison people, and you have subsonic ammo to shoot a little bit more quiet. This is a tricky thing on the Vandal, because the Vandal is part of the same weapon family as the Frontier, and the Frontier has a silencer in the row. The Vandal doesn't, but as it's the same weapon family, you also get subsonic on this one. It's also the same reason why the Ranger has subsonic in the infantry as well, but different story. While I wouldn't recommend the subsonic, there are also some uses for it, but you have at least 4 other really good ammo types on top of the normal ammo that's already quite decent. So the Vandal is one of the most versatile weapons in the game, and it's one of the cheapest as well. The normal Vandal costs you $3,500, the Striker $45, and if I'm not completely mistaken, the bullseye costs you $48. Let me double check that. $37 even, okay. And the second alternative I have for you is the Lemad Carbine. I didn't have that unlocked. You need to play the pistol and get 1 kill or several grunt kills first. But the Lemad Carbine also gives you a very versatile weapon, because you have a rifle with 9 shots, you have FMJ ammo and incendiary ammo for the normal slot, and on top of that you have a lower barrel shotgun with a single shot that you either have normal ammo, Dragon Breath, slugs or Star Shells. Star Shells again are not that good, but Dragon Breath and slugs can be really nice. Pick your weapon, pick what you like. For me, in the beginning it was the Vandal. I still play this rifle up to today. If I have more money, it will be most likely a Martini Henry, or it will be a Mosin Nagant, if I can find it. Yeah. These 2 weapons apply to me a lot, and appease them and check all the boxes that I want from weapons, but up to you it's to decide what's the best for you, what you feel most comfortable with. And one tip to give you on this one is pick your stats and not your weapon because you like the name. And that is something, if you go into details, you will see that the damage, well, if you give headshots it doesn't really matter. Other than that, you might want to consider the drop range and the muzzle velocity most. But it's something that you need to experiment with. I, for example, feel the best if my weapon has a muzzle velocity from 400 to 600. But that's up to you to decide. You need to figure out what you like. I also know people that are better on slower bullets. I know people that are a lot more interested in having bullets as fast as possible, so they go for muzzle velocity 500 plus, for example, or even 550 plus. Just experiment a little bit with what you like, and then you might find weapon families that you actually like a lot. Because, for example, if you like the Vandal like I do, I already mentioned you will also like the Ranger because it's quite similar. You will also like the Infantry because it's quite similar, and you will also like the Frontier because it's quite similar, because it's all the same weapon family. The Centennial technically is also the same weapon family, but has a different ammo type and a different playstyle a little bit, so it might not be exactly your cup of tea again. Alright, one bonus tip by the way: if you use fanning or levering on any of these weapons, you can check if they need them. If you go into details, then you can see what traits are recommended. For example, levering on the Centennial. Levering and fanning, you can click quite often, quite fast, that's perfectly fine, but you only need to press and hold the button to shoot multiple times. It will have the almost perfect ratio between fire speed and reduction of spray. And with that, I guess I have everything that I need to tell to beginners. It was already quite a lot. If you have more questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, have a lovely time of your day. If you want to see a specific guide on farming games for money and or experience, and if you want to have a more in-depth thing on the weapons, please let me know in the comments. Have a good day. See you in the next one. Bye bye.